So there was some questions, and I guess Candace Parker's not allowed to bring it up. She's got a women's basketball podcast, but can't bring up the goings-on in women's basketball. I find that rather interesting. And I'm talking about the fact that people are doing the "why you bringing up Angel" shit. Well, I mean, again, women's basketball podcast, and something happened that's not CBA related.
That reaction right there tells you everything you need to know. Candace Parker just called out Unrivaled's entire operation, and even Aaliyah Boston couldn't hide her discomfort. If there are no rules, you can't break them. That's not analysis. That's a former WNBA champion saying your league is making it up as you go. And the story behind Angel Reese's sudden return to Unrivaled reveals exactly how desperate this 3-on-3 league has become.
Perhaps the most notable, heading into Unrivaled's second season, there was a lot of chatter about many big names that weren't competing. Basically, no big names. Stop it with the Paige Becker stuff. Perhaps the most notable were Caitlin Clark and A'ja Wilson, who were among the two best and most popular players in the world right now. However, given that Clark and Wilson didn't compete in Unrivaled last year, their decision to not play this year...
Here's what happened. Unrivaled announced a series of trades in mid-February 2025, and the Rose BC traded away multiple players. Standard stuff for a league trying to generate buzz, but then something strange occurred. The Rose didn't receive any players back in these trades, not one. And for a league that supposedly has a developmental pool specifically designed to fill roster spots after trades and injuries, that should have been the next step. Pull from the pool, fill the roster, move on. Instead, Unrivaled went completely outside their own system and announced Angel Reese was returning. The same Angel Reese who played in their inaugural season, then sat out Season 2. She wasn't in the developmental pool. She wasn't part of any trade negotiation. She just suddenly appeared on the roster.
But then... drum roll, please. Which has already been announced, but was that?
Oh,
you
that
did
was
a
me.
drum. Okay,
Yes.
You did a drum roll.
You didn't like it?
I did. Thought it was great. Didn't really know quite what it was, but it sounded great. Then it was announced that Angel Reese is coming back to the Rose. She was the rebounding leader last year and defensive player of the year from the inaugural season. And I do think that she's going to give the Rose a boost, but it begs the question of like, what's the developmental pool?
Literally.
And that's where Candace Parker's skepticism becomes crucial. She's not some random commentator throwing shade. She's a 3-time WNBA champion, 2-time MVP, and someone who understands how professional sports leagues are supposed to operate. When she asks, what's the developmental pool? On her podcast with Aaliyah Boston, she's pointing out that Unrivaled just ignored their own infrastructure. Think about what that developmental pool represents. It's supposed to be a group of pre-approved players ready to step in when roster spots open up. Players like Michaela Thompson, one of the most athletic players in WNBA history, who's sitting in that pool right now. Haley Van Lith is in there too. These are legitimate basketball players who followed the process, made themselves available, and now they're watching Unrivaled bypass the entire system for one person.
Which I think it was a great pickup if you could do it, but it's just, the rules in place are a little questionable, how you trade something and don't get anything back.
And then you pull from outside.
So,
Hey.
Can't beat them, join them. I'm with it. There's no rules, you can't break them.
Oh, damn. D-Zam. If there are no rules, you can't break them. And you can tell Aaliyah is like, yeah, this came across as shady to her too.
Watch Aaliyah Boston's body language in that conversation. She's trying to stay diplomatic, but you can see it. The way she pauses before responding. The way she says there's no rules, you can't break them, with that half laugh. She knows this looks bad, because it is bad. When you create a league structure with specific rules about player acquisition, then immediately abandon those rules the moment it's convenient. You're telling everyone that nothing you say actually matters. And here's the thing about Unrivaled's timing. They didn't make this move from a position of strength. The league's ratings have been abysmal in Season 2. We're talking about a 3-on-3 basketball league that was supposed to revolutionize women's basketball in the offseason, and nobody's watching. The viewership numbers are so low they've barely been reported. Social media engagement is non-existent compared to Season 1. So when Angel Reese suddenly becomes available again, Unrivaled panicked.
What are we doing? Hell, nobody knows what's going on in this league. I mean, seriously. Seriously. So you come down here, some of Angels fans are already pissed. The crazy part of the conversation is I never heard Angel mention neither of the two during any of her podcasts. Who cares? However, it seems Angel is mentioned during their broadcast. That tells you what you need to know. That they're talking about women's basketball news? You retard? Right here. Yeah, it means Angel wasn't playing basketball and now she is. Genius.
Now let's address the elephant in the room. Will this actually work? The commentary in that clip suggests Angel Reese might generate a small ratings bump. Maybe 10,000 viewers, possibly 12,000. That's not nothing, but it's also not a solution. Because the fundamental problem with Unrivaled isn't that they're missing one player. The problem is the product itself hasn't captured sustained audience interest. Compare that to what would happen if Caitlin Clark joined the league. The estimate is 1.5 million viewers immediately. That's not even in the same universe as what Angel Reese brings to the table. And that gap reveals something important about Unrivaled's desperation. They're not bringing in Angel Reese because she's going to save the league. They're bringing her in because she's the best option they have access to, and they need something, anything, to generate a pulse.
What are we doing? Using Angel for clicks yet again. God. I mean, honestly, I don't get it. The truth is the ratings are in the gutter without Reese. Zero Twitter engagement, so they changing the rules to let Reese in. I actually do, to a point, agree with that. All right, do I think it's going to be a massive move in ratings or anything like that? No.
But here's where it gets complicated for Angel Reese personally. She was the rebounding leader in Unrivaled's inaugural season. She won Defensive Player of the Year. Those are legitimate accomplishments, and now she's coming back after sitting out the entire second season in a move that looks transparently like a ratings grab. That's not her fault. She didn't create this situation, but the optics are terrible. Her fans are already defensive about it, attacking Candace Parker for even bringing up the question. Go look at the social media responses. People calling Candace a hater, saying she's using Angel for clicks, asking why she's talking about Angel at all. But that's the wrong way to look at it. Candace Parker hosts a women's basketball podcast. Angel Reese just made major women's basketball news by returning to a professional league mid-season through an unconventional process. Of course she's going to discuss it. That's literally her job.
It seems very fishy. Very suspicious. Like you got players on the, and in fact, I think I've got the, who's on the developmental, Haley Van Lith. Michaela Timpson is one of the players in the pool right now. She's sitting somewhere going, are you kidding me? By the way, she's one of the most athletic players I ever seen in the W. Honestly, she may be the most athletic player I've ever seen in the W.
And this is where we need to talk about Michaela Thompson. Remember her? She's in the developmental pool right now. She's one of the most explosive athletes in women's basketball. The kind of player who can change a game with pure physicality. And she's sitting there watching Unrivaled bring in Angel Reese from outside the system while she followed all the proper channels. The commentary mentions that Thompson seemed to react with disbelief. Are you kidding me? And honestly, who can blame her? You're told there's a process. You commit to that process. You make yourself available. And then the league just ignores you when it's time to fill a roster spot. That's not just frustrating. That's a fundamental breach of trust between a league and its players.
Unrivaled just froze her out. Tell me what you think. Unrivaled. Desperation mode for ratings. You can't say they hit the red button like they just hit like a yellow button. I mean, Angel's not going to really blow the ratings up, but there'd be a little bleep on the radar for a game or two, and then it'd be back to straight trash, homie.
So let's synthesize what's actually happening here. Unrivaled is a league that's struggling to find an audience in its second season. The ratings are terrible. The social media engagement is minimal. They need something to generate interest, and they need it fast. Angel Reese becomes available, and suddenly all the rules about developmental pools and proper player acquisition go out the window. Candace Parker calls this out on her podcast, not because she has some personal vendetta against Angel Reese, but because she's a professional analyst pointing out something that doesn't make sense. The league has a system. They're ignoring that system. Why? And the only logical answer is desperation. The problem is that this move doesn't actually solve Unrivaled's fundamental issues. Angel Reese might generate a small ratings bump for 1 or 2 games. Maybe there's a brief spike in social media conversation, but then what? The league still has the same structural problems. The format still hasn't captured sustained audience interest. And now they've also established a precedent that their own rules don't matter when it's inconvenient. Think about what this means for future player acquisitions. If you're a player in the developmental pool, why would you trust that system now? You've just watched Unrivaled bypass it entirely when they wanted a specific person. If you're a team trying to make roster decisions, what rules are you actually operating under? Can you just go outside the system whenever you want? Or is that privilege only available in certain situations? The answer seems to be that Unrivaled is making it up as they go. And that's exactly what Candace Parker was saying with that line about breaking rules. You can't break rules if there are no rules. But the flip side of that statement is devastating. If there are no rules, you don't have a professional sports league. You have an exhibition series where anything can happen at any time for any reason, and that's not sustainable. Professional sports leagues need structure. They need consistency. They need players and teams to understand the rules and trust that those rules will be applied fairly. The moment you start making exceptions, especially exceptions that look this transparently like desperation moves, you undermine the entire operation. Now, to be fair to Unrivaled, they're in a tough position. They're trying to build a new league in an incredibly competitive sports entertainment landscape. They're competing for attention during the WNBA offseason, which means they're up against NFL playoffs, NBA regular season, college basketball, and everything else happening in sports. Getting any viewership at all is an achievement. But the solution to that challenge can't be abandoning your own rules every time you need a boost. The real question is whether Angel Reese's return actually helps or hurts Unrivaled's credibility long-term. Short-term, yes, they'll probably see a small ratings increase, maybe some additional media coverage. But they've also shown everyone watching that the developmental pool is meaningless, that trades don't have to make sense, and that the rules change based on who's available and how desperate the league is for attention. That's not a foundation for sustainable growth. That's a foundation for chaos. And the players in that developmental pool are watching. The teams trying to build rosters are watching. The fans who want to invest in following this league are watching. And what they're seeing is a league that doesn't respect its own structure. Candace Parker was absolutely right to bring this up, not because she's trying to tear down Unrivaled or attack Angel Reese, but because someone needs to ask these questions. If the league won't explain why they're bypassing their own systems, then analysts and commentators need to point out that it's happening. That's how accountability works in professional sports. So where does this leave us? Unrivaled gets their short-term ratings bump. Angel Reese gets to play basketball and earn money, which is great for her. But the league's credibility takes another hit. And the players who followed the proper channels, who committed to the developmental pool, who did everything they were supposed to do, they're left wondering why they bothered. The answer to that question is going to determine whether Unrivaled can actually build something sustainable or whether this is just an exhibition series that changes the rules whenever it's convenient. And right now, based on how they've handled Angel Reese's return, it's looking a lot more like the latter than the former. What do you think? Is Unrivaled making smart business decisions to save their ratings, or are they destroying their credibility by ignoring their own rules? Drop your take in the comments and make sure you're subscribed because this situation is far from over.